My crackers, it's me, the big M from the big A. 50 names, not one that you know. And I'm here to give y'all a new review on this new Leroy album, Status Update Music. As someone that's slowly seen her evolve her sound through the hyperpop scene over the years, seeing her at the place that she's at now is fucking crazy. I mean, I initially found her through all the Nova Gang adjacent stuff like that until obviously she started to branch out and now she's has the fan base she does now. Her existence in the underground scene is kind of one of Jesus-like energy. Obviously, when you observe the area in which she operates, aka the underground rap scene, you're talking about a scene full of high school acting idiots that literally the most LARPing shit ever. Hold on. When you make go around saying that you're punk and then you use the F slur on a song, you don't know anything about that life. You're LARPing for the sake of the LARP. At that point, you might as well just be making dumb shit. You know, shout out to Slimy, but at that point, you just gotta be making Too Slimy, brother. This project is another release in the long line of DarioCore projects that she's been releasing. Most notably DarioCore 2, which has seen a lot more buzz lately on sites like Rate Your Music. It's very highly rated on stuff like that now. A lot more pop-centric than a lot of the other projects, but that's initially how the genre of DarioCore started, just kind of basically the same way that it is now. Very sample heavy, EDM inspired stuff, some bits of hardstyle in there, but a lot more pop centric in general. That's why this new album, Status Update Music, is so far ahead of everything that she's made up to this point, especially on the Leroy account. It's actually insane to see, usages and more progressive styles of music come to play in this album. Starting with one of the first songs, EXO Tour Life, the usages of, the Charlie XCX sample, along with some things from her own music, it kind of sets she is actually one of the best artists at doing this and recycling their own sounds. And I don't mean that in a Nine Victims way. I mean that in a, implementing older instrumentation on the new album to make it sound interesting. The usages of the Sleeping with Sirens vocal samples, along with PTV's emo SpongeBob yelling, which I do appreciate, add so much character to the music and more of everything that is to come on this album. It seems like almost the instrumentations that she builds on this album are built around these vocals, which I do find very interesting. Especially when you recognize that the last minute kind of exemplifies her usages of screaming vocal samples and how she uses them to take out a lot of space. There's something that is very relating to that, especially to more older types of music, especially with the wall of sound emergence through Phil Spector's work in the late 60s, where how she uses the screams, it's basically just a giant wall of sound that's there to pull apart the mix and really put a giant moving machine right there, slap it right in the middle of that motherfucker, just seeing what the hell happens. The track I Did This For Us features the first few seconds of what sounds like the bitch from The Ring farting really loudly before it progresses really quickly into this bro step collage of different noises, very Skrillex related, obviously. All of these dancing, arching synths that float around your head during this song, it simulates like you're, climbing up a giant ladder to heaven, and you're these fat motherfuckers are flying at you that are getting denied from heaven. Like if God was if they had Jared Fogle, the subway guy, up there on the big tower or whatever where he's being judged, I feel like his big ass would come falling down and hit you as you're walking up the ladder, because I feel like God wouldn't know about the shit that he's done outside of it. I think he would initially view him as the subway guy, but obviously looks can be a little bit deceiving. All these car crash percussion noises that punch you in the face, it's like you're outside taking a hike and you shit yourself, and the only way to get it out is if you jostle your pants just a little bit and make it fall out of one of the legs in your pants. It really is so hard hitting to a point where it might make you defecate. It's almost reminiscent of a Mersbo song or a Too Slimy song, or like a 13 view song that you find scrolling through the front page of Band Lab. Like Watching a Zombie Turn has this synth that's very reminiscent of one of her older songs on Frailty, Hands Off the Wheel, I'm a Star. It's just something I listened to and was like, wow, this might actually be directly borrowed from that. It follows this free-forming track of electronic snare noises, of drums, noises, all that kind of like, and it really just paints the track just like you're on a train and you're going one track after the other until you're at your destination, and the destination is the end of the song. It also showcases these sharp, piercing stabs that happen throughout the song, which kind of sound like if you've ever been to a Buffalo Wild Wings during the Super Bowl and you're sitting down and like the Eagles throw a touchdown and the whole fucking restaurant gets up on their front feet and starts chucking food at one another. It's kind of like the crowd pop of something like that happening. There's also this giant buzzing bass which acts as the giant muddy snail trail that the rest of the song follows completely through, that draws your attention more and more as it becomes louder and gets more impactful in the song itself. The end of the song, the breakdown at the end, feels like you're entering, if y'all remember that old show on CBS where it's like the three kids and they go into the computer and they do a bunch of bullshit. It's kind of like that, but instead of entering like this computer wonderland, they just go into like the Strike bowling alley screen and they explore that shit for like 3 hours. That's what the breakdown at the end of this song sounds like in a way. Nothing Lasts Forever is another song that uses this cycling ricochet of vocal samples along with very rigidly placed percussion instruments that grab your attention in just the first few seconds of the song. I mean, the second half of the song genuinely almost gave me a fucking brain aneurysm. I literally had to walk over to my bathroom, open the mirror drawer, grab my Xans, and take all of them. And now, these are not normal Xans. These are Xans the size of the pill, the big-ass one that Mr. Krabs took. So we're talking pretty challenging experience. Boy Let Me Know is another very important highlight on the album. It very much raises dissonance with the Osama Sun sample that's odd enough, which ends up being used in the second half of the song very differently and is nowhere near as aggressive, almost nostalgic in a way that it's used actually. It has a bunch of vocal samples that sounds like they're talking in fucking like in tongues or some shit, and Fortnite dropped onto Sentinel Island and you're just showing them some bullshit. Right Now, Tear Me Apart is definitely the most catchiest song on the album that still follows the Dairycore format of random bullshit thrown at you. It cycles through all these different things that happen all throughout it. It genuinely feels like you're playing Rocket League a little bit. This sounds like a Rocket League song. This is like that song that everybody makes fun of off the Slayer album, which is actually really fucking good, which I don't know why they even make fun of it in the first place. Definitely sounds the most like the older Dairycore projects, especially Dairycore 2, which definitely prioritizes more catchiness in the structures of the songs. Again, very dynamic usage of low end used throughout all of the album, most predominantly on this song, which it's not the most blown out low end, but it does change significantly throughout the entire course of the song. Love Angel Music Baby, which does borrow its name from the Gwen Stefani album, which it does sample on the song, is just a barrage of these giant, rocking, honking 808 slams that put you 6 feet deep into the ground, cracker. It's stagnant, but not in a bad way where you want to click off the song and listen to something better, but it's more stagnant in a hypnotic way, almost. Get Ugly is another crazy album highlight for me. It is by far the dirtiest song from the album, the most guitar-ridden one. It's definitely an experience I recommend you go listen to yourself all the way through. It does remind me a lot of Justice's Cross album, which does use implementations of rock guitars into creating house music. It also completely switches the vibe up in the second half, basically becoming this giant, monstrous hand that grabs you in the head. It turns this hand around and instead uses it to jerk you off. Summer Fling is the last song on the album and by far one of the most accessible songs that she's ever probably made, which is very strange knowing that it's on a Leroy album, which is supposed to be usually her most experimental works. But it essentially uses the instrumentations of Core into more pop influenced stuff. That's something you'd see on the Heart EP, and flips it on its head and basically combines the two into this great, amazing song. Probably one of the best, if not the best, on the album. The glittery chorus on the song definitely paints a picture of you standing at PCB in that dirty ass water, shout out Charles Barkley, and just watching the water, watching the sunset as the darkness devours the dawn. Shit like that. The Summer I Turned Pretty is actually one of the only downsides, I think, of the entire album, where it does kind of feel like randomness over the instrumental. Like the vocals kind of don't really match the instrumentals, which is the only time that this happens on really the album itself. Don't get me wrong, it's still a good song, but in comparison with the rest of the album, it's nothing to really write home about. But again, you can't really take a shit without having to wipe at least a few times, so we ball. Overall, I really do believe that this album is one of the best executed, creatively constructed, unique, delves into electronic and dance music that I've basically ever heard in my life. I'm genuinely willing to put it on the pedestal with albums like Discovery, or this isn't really in the same vein, but obviously Aphex Twin, Ambient Works 85 through 92. I genuinely think in the future, when people are talking about this album, they will put this on a pantheon of electronic dance music, up there with some of the best albums of all time. It's genuinely in that vein, I believe. Obviously, shout out to the trans homies. Shout out to the LGBTQ+. You know, if you're knocking, I'm there to open the knob to let you into my house. That's at least with my consent, of course, and if I'm awake. Despite that being said, peak album. I have to give it probably a 9 out of 10 on a rating scale. One of the best albums that you'll probably hear this year. Thank y'all so much for coming by.